In this pre-sanctified liturgy, it's one of the most ancient liturgies. It's a beautiful service. It's probably one of the more complicated liturgies to conduct as a priest, but also has a very unique beauty to it. It's designed for all of us as a glass of water in the middle of a race. As you have seen runners in different marathons, as they run, they stop and they grab a glass of water and they'll drink it as they continue on their race and continue to move forward running. And in that, they are fueled, they are restored, refreshed, and can continue on their journey. The same with us this evening is this pre-sanctified liturgy is for our refueling in the middle of the week. But you might be saying, well, Father, how can we refuel when we're at home and we're watching online or we're watching this already recorded and hearing this sermon the next day? How is this refueling for us? And I would have to say that although you did not receive the sacrament of Holy Communion this evening in the service, there's a part of this service that is a calling for all of us to enact in our own homes. And it's a very poignant part of the service where we kneel down, we ask for God's blessings, as the priest will cense around the altar table, and he says, "Let my prayer rise up as incense before you, and the lifting of my hands as an evening sacrifice." As we know in the Old Testament, the sacrifices that were offered to God were animals that were sacrificed, whether they were a goat, a sheep, a bird, whatever those things were brought into the temple, they were burnt offerings that were given to God. And then we see with Christ himself, he becomes the offering so that we can have a bloodless sacrifice. So the Divine Liturgy and the pre-sanctified liturgy as we have this evening is a bloodless sacrifice. Christ has already shed his blood for us, and this sacrifice that we offer him is bloodless. However, you at home watching can raise your hands as an evening sacrifice, as asking God to come upon you, to bless you, to watch over your home, your household, your family members, yourself, and to, if you have incense, to light it in your home so that it can raise up to the heavens in our prayers, as the psalm says, that our prayers mix with the incense and raise up into the clouds with God. This evening in church was a beautiful evening that you missed, and it's not because you missed the service, but you missed a view that I can see here and that Peter could see chanting this evening, which was the sun setting in the church in the west. Obviously, this is the east, this is the west. And the sun was setting and it was coming into the church, and because of all the incense, we had these great lines coming through the church in the windows, and the crosses that are in the windows had actually made the actual shadow of a cross within these tubes of incense, that we could see these shadows coming into the church as a beautiful understanding and a reality of our prayers rising as incense before God. So don't underestimate your prayers. Don't underestimate the power of your love in your prayers. It's one thing to say a prayer, and it's another thing to say a prayer and you mean it. And we see that one of the beautiful expressions of our prayers that we see in this past couple days is that we prayed the Paraclesis service on Sunday for some people who were very sick, very ill. One person almost died, the other one had a fever that would not subside, and two others who were severely ill. And because of the prayers of the church, I received emails saying the fever has broke. The one who was almost died the other day is doing better, and that the two who had severe illness are doing better today. It's because of our prayers as a community, because of our prayers as a church, that change the world around us. Our prayers are critical in this time, absolutely critical for our own lives at home, but also for the life of the world, for the church that we have here, and the outreach and the many blessings and ministries that we have in the church. They require our prayers. To pray for this church, to pray for the Orthodox Church, to pray for your family, to pray for the clergy, to pray for those around you who are sick, the scattered, the suffering, the sad, the lonely, the estranged, those in exile, the homeless, the needy, the oppressed, the trafficked, the abused. There's so many that need our prayers. So in your homes, let your prayers rise up as incense, and let the lifting of your hands be your evening sacrifice, your sacrifice to God, that He will see the lifting of your hands, the simple gesture of just doing this and lifting your hands, and to see that God will see that and know that you are lifting up your heart to God so that He can hear your prayers and bless those in your household and all those throughout the world. Continue to pray. Continue to make this time a time of growth in your spiritual lives. Don't fear, but be careful. Don't fear, but be faithful. Those are things that we have to keep in mind. With faith, there is no fear, but there's also no foolishness with faith either. The foolishness of thinking we can do something that we can't, or the foolishness of taking for granted God's care and His grace for us, that we could automatically just go on cruise control and not continue to struggle and continue to find our lives focused on God and praying to God. May you have a blessed and peaceful evening. And I wanted to just, on one last note, to take one particular part of the liturgy. When I came out with the gifts, I have that cloth on my head, the ayir, which is the one cloth that we shake in the standard liturgy of St. John Chrysostom or St. Basil. We shake that cloth and it goes over the chalice and the disc. And when a standard liturgy, when we go around the church, it's wrapped around the priest's neck. It's placed on the priest's head for two reasons. Number one is a sign of humility and somberness of the liturgy this evening, the pre-sanctified liturgy, but also because in the early days they didn't have a way to carry that, so they used to put it on their head as almost a head dressing, and to put it on their head and then put the gifts underneath and to walk with it as if it were sitting on the table as you saw this evening. So that's just a little nuance in the pre-sanctified liturgy. Like I said, the pre-sanctified liturgy is one of the oldest liturgies, one of the oldest services we have, and it's just an extraordinary and beautiful liturgy. I pray that you enjoyed the service this evening, and when I say enjoyed, that it helped you for just a split second to become in tune with God, just for 1 second. And if you got that 1 second, then that was a blessing, because the 1 second will turn into 2, and then it will turn into more, and pretty soon your whole life will be tuned and dialed into Christ, to hear Him, to speak to Him, to feel Him, and to know that He is here for us, always watching over us, suffering when we suffer, rejoicing when we rejoice, and always sending His grace upon us. May you have a blessed and peaceful evening. Amen.